That morning on October 12th started at 6:35 a.m. with a CBC interview. They set it up like a Zoom call, so I got dressed up thinking maybe they would use video footage, but they didn't end up doing that, which is fine by me because there's this old practice that if you get dressed up, you kind of sound like you're dressed up. I hope you enjoy it. Here's the interview.
Arnie Stewart was one of the many people who secretly grew up with limited literacy. He went much of his life pretending he could read and write and faced many struggles. Yet by the time he passed away in 2012, he had inspired many other young people to ask for help improving their reading skills, and it changed their lives along the way. Janet Lee is a teacher who met Arnie and helped him share his story. Now she is continuing his legacy by celebrating his life with an event in Barrie tonight and putting together a documentary about Arnie Stewart's impact. Janet joins me now. Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you tell me a bit about Arnie Stewart's early years and what he was navigating?
Sure. Arnie was born in the small town of Cobalt. He was one of 12 children living in extreme poverty. Arnie was always hungry and always hoping for someone to give him help. He had a very hard time in school. He was in grade 1 for 2 years, grade 2 for 2 years, grade 3, grade 4 for 2 years. And in grade 5, he was there for just 1 hour because the teacher gave him the attendance sheet with a question mark behind his name. He took the attendance sheet to the main office and the principal looked at the sheet and said, "Arnie, this is your last day of school. You're not going to make anything out of yourself anyway, so you might as well go underground and work in the mine." And that was Arnie's last day of school. He couldn't read or write, and he was forced to survive that way for many, many years.
Wow. What changed his path?
Arnie hitchhiked all the way to Niagara Falls from Cobalt, and that's very far. When he was in Niagara Falls, he was living in a parked car and eating food out of a garbage can to survive. And one day he was sitting at a picnic table when he was joined by 2 teenage girls who said, "We haven't seen you around here. Do you go to school?" And he said, "No, I don't go to school. I'm having hard times living in a parked car." And they said, "Well, come back tomorrow." So the next day he came back and sat there, and the girls arrived, and one of the girls brought out a sandwich that she had stolen from her house to give to Arnie. And he tells the students, he said, "That sandwich was so good, I married that little girl." And he was with her for 45 years. She was holding his hand when he passed.
Wow. When did you first meet him?
I was a teacher in a high school in Innisfil called Nantyre Shores Secondary School. And Arnie was a speaker at our school, and I brought my students down to the library to hear him. And I thought, oh my goodness, he looks really disheveled. Who is this person? And my students felt the same way. And we were kind of skeptical about it until he began to speak. And he told his story to my students and to myself, and we were all in tears. We really were moved by how courageous he was to tell his deepest secret to us. So that was one of those days. I don't know if you ever had a day like that where you thought, wow, my whole life is about to change. This was a pivotal moment for me. I decided I would approach Arnie after his speech and say, you don't know me, but my name is Janet Lee, and I want to help write your book and get your story out into the world.
Wow. And what was that, I guess, what did you learn from him in going through that process?
Well, isn't it funny how when we teach somebody, we learn way more than we teach them? And I felt as if I was so honored to watch him go through the process of speaking to students and learning. Together, we worked on his learning. And, I couldn't find the perfect resource for him. Adults it's very interesting to find a resource for an adult that would inspire and engage them, especially if they're reading at a low level. So I had an idea. I thought, Arnie, why don't we have the students write you letters? And when we get the letters, we'll sit together and I'll help you and we'll read them. And then you'll write a letter back. And I thought it would be just, maybe 20 letters would arrive. And so we started telling our students that we were speaking to, hey, write Arnie a letter. And about a week later, they started to pour in. And we received thousands of letters from students. And Arnie delighted in trying to read each one. And so when we stopped our tour because Arnie was ill, I took those letters, and I have about 1,000 letters with me here in Canada today. Arnie and his wife Barb, they have the others, but I have many letters, and those students are now in their 20s. And it's really exciting for me to be back in Barrie, hoping to find some of these students. There's about 28,000 students that Arnie spoke to.
Wow. So tell me about what's happening in Barrie. He passed away in 2012, unfortunately, and you're holding a celebration of life for him tonight. Why more than a decade later? Why now?
Well, Arnie never had a memorial service, and I feel it's time to do that. I've also been telling Arnie's story since he passed, and I happen to be heard by a Hollywood producer, and they've signed on to Arnie's project to make it into a documentary film. So I have a film crew with me ready to film this event, and what we're hoping is that we can spread awareness about literacy this way. We can honor Arnie's life. We're going to be at the Spirit Catcher in Barrie at 6 p.m. And I am sending the call out. If you know Arnie, if you have an Arnie card, please come. And what an Arnie card is a photo of Arnie standing with his school bell. And along the side of the bell, it says, always ask for help. And we handed out thousands of these cards. And it's my hope that 1 hour in 2007, 2008, 2009 will have made a difference to students. And really, as teachers, we send a ripple effect out into the world. And we always wonder if what we did made a difference. Well, that's what I'm thinking. I would really like to see if what we did together, telling Arnie's story and working with students, we want to know if it made a difference. So we hope students will come out tonight and celebrate his life with us.
Janet, thanks so much for sharing Arnie's story with us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
It's Janet Lee, a longtime educator and author of Phoenix, The Story of Arnie Stewart. And if you'd like to join her and others in the celebration of Arnie's life and learn more about contributing to the documentary, there's a celebration of life in Barrie this evening. It takes place at the Spirit Catcher, as she mentioned, on the waterfront starting at 6 p.m.